I, I just want to know your perspective on this bill and its potential impacts on Medicaid.
It's got three strikes against it. The first strike is it cuts $2 trillion from programs for healthcare, housing, education, good paying jobs, fundamentals for families to stand on their feet and thrive. The second strike is it delivers those trillions to the richest Americans who won't even notice it, but they get this vast gift from the federal government. And the third is it runs up massive amount of debt, compromising what we can do to provide strong programs for the next generation. So three strikes, it's a terrible bill. I'll do everything I can to stop it.
Do you think it will pass by that Memorial Day deadline that the president set?
Well, I know a lot of arms are being twisted or broken right now to accelerate it through the House. There are big differences between what the House and the Senate have put in their guidelines for doing this bill. And there are a lot of provisions in the House that can't be included in a reconciliation bill in the House, in the Senate. So the bill will have to go back to the House. So it's got a lot of steps in it. I'm guessing no, uh, that it will not be on the president's desk by Memorial Day.
Another thing I think might be of interest to our viewers is Biden's health. We found out about his cancer diagnosis, and throughout the his reelection campaign, we were kind of encouraged that his health was fine. He was fit for the job. How can Americans trust that, this is they can trust in the party?
Well, uh, listen, I'm so saddened to hear about the prostate cancer and that it has metastasized. That's not news anyone wants to hear. Here in the Senate, where you have a fair number of, shall I say, senior gentlemen serving in the Senate, we have one story after another about prostate cancer. It's very hard to detect, and so often it advances without symptoms. And so I have no sense that there was any cover up of the cancer during his campaign or anything of that nature. Unless something comes out otherwise, I think he's been pretty direct with the Americans about his health, and that's good. We want our leaders to be transparent about that.
Thank you. I know you have efforts underway to kind of beef up the wildland firefighters ahead of, well, it's upon us. Wildfire season is about here, so I think it's timely to talk about that act that your legislation you're trying to pass.
Absolutely. I've done a number of things over time, fighting for better firefighter pay because you want them to come back year after year, trying to enable them to work year round on forest management when they're not fighting fires, again, to keep those skills with us, making sure that we have enough equipment and enough money so that we don't drain the other Forest Service accounts when we're fighting fires, training the Oregon National Guard and National Guards across the country to provide more crews. But the piece that I'm working on now is to have our Civilian Conservation Corps, we have three of them in Oregon, train a lot more folks for firefighting. And that is a bill I'm doing in partnership with Senator Daines of Montana. It's bipartisan, and I think it's a very cost-effective way to help young people find a path in life, stand on their feet, and very, very much needed in terms of the challenge of the growing hotter, longer firefighting season.
How would this work with Job Corps students?
Well, the Job Corps students, and some of them are training in firefighting now, but we would expand the efforts to produce a lot more graduates in that particular field.
Facial recognition, and I know you have some legislation you're working on towards preventing that as well. Can you explain that?
I am really worried about a national facial surveillance, facial recognition system tracking Americans. It's a real threat to our privacy. It's a real threat to our freedom. We have seen how it's been used by more authoritarian governments around the world to track individuals and suppress dissent or even just disagreement. And it's a risk here as well. So the TSA is rolling out facial recognition and has said they want to go to facial recognition only at the airports. I tried last year to constrain the expansion, the rapid expansion. I wanted Congress to have to debate it. Failed in that. The airlines weighed in heavily, and I could not get enough momentum with my colleagues. But now I have several partners across the aisle, Senator Kennedy and Senator Cruz, and it basically says, look, you have to preserve the ability of people to travel using documents rather than facial recognition. You can't go to a facial recognition only system. And so I have a better chance on this, a little bit more momentum, but I really want to keep ringing the alarm bells and let everyone know you can use your driver's license or your passport instead of facial recognition at the airport. It's very simple. You just don't step in front of the camera, hand your document to the TSA agent and say, I'm choosing to opt out of facial recognition. They are now trained, or supposed to be trained, in facilitating that, and I've been getting a much better response. Just know you can do that, completely safe, completely legal. You'll not be detained. And they're now trained to say, okay, that's fine. And then they'll tell you what to do.
Your legislation, though, it would prevent it altogether, would it?
My legislation would preserve the ability to use documents. I tried to eliminate the spread of facial recognition in our airports. I failed in that. It's already in hundreds and it's going to be in 400. I lost out to kind of the power of the airlines on that. But let's make sure it's not facial recognition only. Let's give every American the ability to travel inside our country using documents and not be part of a big database. Because once you're in that database, it's so inexpensive to track you everywhere you go. To have cameras set up and, oh, there went a face by. Who is that? Let's scan that. Let's identify that. Let's flag that. That's really scary power for the government to have.
Well, Senator Merkley, I know you have one more piece of legislation that I did want to touch on involving cryptocurrency. Can you explain the risk with crypto and a president?
Yeah, President Trump is selling influence and access to the government in a way we've never seen. This is the most corrupt administration ever, the most corrupt president. What he's doing is saying, hey, give me $1 and I will give you a digital collector's coin called a meme coin. Well, you get an email with a picture of a coin. He gets $1. So, for example, you have the head of a freight company saying, I'm going to buy $20 million. That means he's going to give Trump $20 million because he wants to influence trade policy related to freight moving between Mexico and the United States. And then he has another form of corrupt coin. This is called a stable coin. It's not a collector's coin. It's actually used in international transactions. And you have a company associated with the government of United Arab Emirates, UAE. And that company is run by the national security advisor of that country. And they are going to buy $1 billion of Trump's digital stable coin for a transaction. In this case, the president doesn't get to keep the money, but what he can do is keep all the proceeds from investing that money. So if, for example, that money stays with him for a year while they're using these digital coins, he would make on $2 billion transaction, he'd make $80 million at 4%. That is a $80 million gift to the president of the United States to win influence. And what did UAE want? Well, they had very specific requests about getting chips for artificial intelligence. So again, it's selling access. Our government's for sale. The president's corrupt in a massive way, and we need to put an end to it. And that's what my bill would do.
And how exactly would your bill put an end to it?
The bill says that all electeds and all the senior special executive appointees like Elon Musk and all cabinet members, also all federal electeds, all of us in the House and Senate, all of us would be banned from having any financial stake in crypto coin operations.
All of this legislation, it's newly introduced. What are the next steps for it?
Well, I'm trying to get an amendment to be considered on the crypto regulation bill called the Genius Act that the Senate is considering right now. So it looks like that will not reach a point of consideration this week. We are back in district next week. When we come back, we'll be back on that bill, and I'm going to do everything I can to get a vote on this legislation.
And do you know when the wildland firefighters legislation and the facial recognition, when those will be voted on?
Well, we had a plan with the Commerce Committee through Chair Ted Cruz of Texas to have it considered in a hearing in June. It doesn't look like that's now going to take place. He's getting a lot of opposition flowing in. There's a lot of big money interests who want to keep pushing facial recognition. So I've got more work to do to try to get the committee to agree to hear the bill and to vote on it.